Damn, son, where'd you find this?
People don't be offended by the truth. They be offended because you called out the truth. Simple as that. They don't want to hear any other narrative that makes them look bad.
One thing I can't stand at this big grown age is somebody who act like cause and effect does not exist. Like, yes, your actions caused this outcome. Yes, what you did lit the match. Like, why are you surprised and playing victim?
Guys, Chico, they never lied.
That's how you know somebody doesn't respect you. They listen to a reply, not to be understood. They cut you off. They minimize what actually matters to you. They laugh at your boundaries, and then they call you sensitive when you try to hold the line. They show up late, they cancel last minute, forget the things you've told them, because in their world, your time, your energy, even your voice aren't a priority. They're just an option. You see, there are two kinds of people. Those who adjust when they realize they've actually hurt you, and those who expect you to adjust so they don't have to change. You don't need to be disrespected loudly to be disrespected deeply. Sometimes you'll see it. It's just in their tone, in their patterns, in the silence after you're known. Respect isn't what they say when they're watching. It's how they act when they think you'll tolerate it.
Good evening. Happy Saturday. Peace, blessings, glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. What is the word, people? I hope all is well. Big shout outs to the panel, to the poets, to the writers, to the content creators, to the conspiracy theorists, to the people who have a fascination with the wonders and the mysteries of the world and the universe. I hope you enjoy your Saturday. You see the title. I'm going to try to play this one as smooth as possible. The last time I covered anything like this, YouTube tried to come for me, so I will ensure that I cover my bases as much as possible. This is for educational purposes, of course. So I got a clip that I'm going to play. I have something that I want to read. Chef, what's going on, brother? I got see it in the building. I see the final boss is in the studio. Let me do this. I'm gonna bring Sid up. He's not on camera yet. I'm gonna bring her up. We're gonna chop it up a little bit before we get into this clip and take it from there. But Sid, what's going on? Hold on.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Trying not to eat all the candy today. But other than that, doing pretty good. Chill Saturday. We had a barbecue this morning. And I've just been kind of hanging out, watching videos all day. But yeah, I am really intrigued by this topic. I don't know as much about like water chemical sciences, but I do know a little bit from just my understanding of how we impact the oceans and the watershed systems So it'll be a pretty interesting conversation. I'm like, just right off the bat, I'm kind of to both sides. So I'm excited to have the conversation.
Respectfully. I want to read this off real quick just to protect myself because YouTube is extremely petty. I don't want nobody to look at this discussion and say, oh, they're putting out false information or this is not true. Well, there's a lot of stuff on the internet that isn't necessarily 1000% true, but yet and still we feed into it and we give most of our life to it. This is just, let's say, an open form of what could be. Let's just say this could be accurate. Now, what I'm going to read here real quick before I actually bring up the actual video. Conspiracy theories about vaccines and food persist online. This is a fact check site. Basically, it says a post with over 2.4 million views and 77,000 engagements claims that the federal government is going to use taxpayer money to poison food with transgenic edible vaccines. The claim cites a UC Riverside study that has been grossly misrepresented by vaccine opponents, which explores the use of vegetables to produce mRNA vaccines. A congressman with a history of promoting false claims about vaccines claimed that the House of Representatives passed a resolution to allow Franken-Food vaccine research. The high profile of the source increases the impact of the claims. Some variation of this false narrative has circulated continuously for the last 2 years. Debunking messaging may explain that while the eventual goal of the research is to grow certain edible vaccines and vegetables, these experiments are in very early stages and still many years from entering the market, if they ever do. Messaging may also emphasize that the research is simply exploring most cost-effective and practical ways to produce and deliver vaccines. So I say all that just to say there are sites that are basically saying none of this is accurate. It's just made up. So you can take this video however you want. I just offer a different perspective. And I just gave you 2 different sides of it. So let me bring this up on the big screen. I will let it run. Oops, hold up. Wait a minute. Let me get that back up here. Sorry about that. I'm gonna let it run. The initial thoughts. And we'll take it from there. Let me find it again. There it is. All right. Unmute that. Bring this over here. Bada bing, bada boom. Big screen, big screen. All right. Let me bring this up a little bit more. Cool. All right.
have to watch this.
Can you give me an example of a food that's a vaccine?
You recognize?
Yes, sir. University of California, Riverside has already perfected the ability to put human vaccines into our lettuce right now. Also, tomatoes has the ability to do that also for UC Berkeley. And then Big Tobacco, RJ Reynolds and stuff has perfected the ability to put a human vaccine into tobacco products.
Chairman Clements?
And is that even legal to do in the state of Tennessee, to sell those with a vaccine in them?
You recognize?
Well, I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying is there is no law deeming those that when you go into a grocery store, you should know as a consumer, this head of lettuce is a head of lettuce. The head of lettuce right next to it could contain a vaccine in it. All we're saying is if it does have the vaccine in it, make sure it's listed as a pharmaceutical so people can get the proper dosage.
You recognize?
Thank you. Well, my question is right now, can you walk into a grocery store and there be a head of lettuce for sale that has a vaccine in it? I don't think that's allowed under state law presently. And if it is, and you have to list it as a pharmaceutical, are we going to then have Walgreens pharmacists with a refrigerated section? I mean, how's this going to play out?
You recognize?
Thank you. This is more of a consumer protection bill right here, is to make sure that if you're going in to buy tomatoes and there's a polio vaccine in there, that you are aware of what you're buying has a polio vaccine. The problem you have is if it's not treated as a pharmaceutical, being the size and difference between you and me, how many tomatoes do I have to eat to get the proper dosage versus how many tomatoes that you have to eat? And if you eat too many, do you get a overdose? If you eat too less, it's like we had in the cattle industry with aeromycin, we weren't dosing our cattle properly and the horn flies were developing an immunity to it. If we don't have the proper dosage of a vaccine, it could lead to the efficacy of that drug not work anymore.
Yo, you have to watch this.
Can you give me an example of a food that's a vaccine?
You recognize?
Yes, sir. University.
I'm not a scientist. I'm not even going to try to pretend like I'm one. And I'm not going to pull up a whole lot of different numbers and break down the vaccine itself and what it means to have a certain amount of this and that and what. And like I said before, this is just for educational purposes and to bring awareness. My initial thoughts opening up, I'm going to say, if this isn't real, then AI needs to be completely abolished from social media. If this is actually accurate and there's truth to this, but they're trying to disguise it, that is scary to me. This is actually, to be honest, the first time I've ever heard about this, period. Before I came across that video. And like I scroll, because I'm always looking for different things to bring to the platform that nobody really knows about. So when I see it, I'm thinking, all right, this has got to be either AI generated or this is something that severely gets overlooked because of how sensationalized it appears to be. Those are my initial thoughts. Let me bring him up on a big screen. Opening thoughts. Anybody? Final boss. What's up?
Y'all doing this evening, man? Doing all right?
Good. Good. Did you get a chance to see the video?
I mean, I did see a part of it. I was still moving at the time, but we pretty much talking about they putting something in the food, right?
Right. Allegedly, of course.
Yeah, allegedly. Well, I mean, I heard about the shrimp that they was putting something in the shrimp, radioactive shrimp, and they did speak on that before. This was a few months ago though. They said they were selling it at the Walmart and all that. Just be careful about the package you pick up in the store. Radioactive, putting cancer in your body and stuff like that. So, I mean, I believe they always putting some type of chemical in food anyway that your body don't need. That's why people end up getting sick in later ages of their life. If they eat too much or something, then they'll have a lot of health concerns.
Yeah. Um, if you
So just to preface, I am not a pharmaceutical technician. I don't have a medical degree, but I do kind of have a bit of knowledge about this. There is technically genetic modification in plants and MRA, which is the type of basically part of your DNA, in plants that are used to decrease certain illnesses. This is from what is it? Immunize, or no, where is it? I just had it. There's a page that runs down some of the types of vaccines that are already in food. They have them in legumes. Oh, here it is. Plants like potato, banana, lettuce, corn, soybean, rice, and legumes have been utilized for the application of edible vaccines that have resulted in reduced diseases such as cholera, hepatitis, measles, and diarrhea. In particular for cholera and diarrhea, I know that can be passed through water. A lot of foods that live in the ground or that take in a lot of water are at an increased risk of making people sick. That's why you often see a lot of recalls on stuff like spinach and lettuce and potatoes and what are some of the other ones? Tomatoes, I think, are one. But we are at a higher risk of picking up illnesses from types of fruits and vegetables that are touching the ground or are sprayed with water or are living in water. That's also why, like shellfish, you can have a lot of outbreaks with that as well, or with chicken, because the contamination risk is quite high. And so some of these vaccines are just for reducing the risk of people getting these from eating those plants. And they have already shown benefits with people that have been given these. I also want to just kind of, since it was mentioned, the thing with the shrimp, that wasn't intentional. That was because of a contamination issue. Cesium was leaking into the water in the areas where the shrimp were being farmed. And so cesium is a form of radioactive material. And the shrimp that were pulled out of those areas, particularly around Indonesia, which is the third largest exporter of shrimp, had amounts of cesium in it. So they weren't like making the shrimp radioactive just to like poison people. But as we know, things that we put onto plants, put into the water, accidentally released into the air, will kind of end up into the water. And so that's actually kind of why I said the thing about the water. I'm not an expert in watersheds either, but a lot of medications and pharmaceutical based products, chemicals, pesticides, you name it, are going to end up in our watershed system. And so even if they're not directly putting stuff into our food, a lot of the stuff ends up in our food anyways. I just recently heard of a story in India where their vulture population crashed by like over 90%, and they couldn't figure out why. But then they eventually were able to figure out that the vultures feed on beef because they raise cows for other reasons, but they don't eat the cows. So the vultures were the ones primarily eating the meat. And the cows had been treated with a certain medication that caused liver failure in the birds. And so it was killing them off just because they were consuming the meat with the pharmaceuticals inside them. So a lot of this happens where plants or animals are taking in pharmaceutical type components into them, and when we eat them we can get contaminated. And on the flip side, they also can be contaminated by biological things that cause dysentery and cholera and E. coli and stuff like that. So I'm on one side where I doubt that they're specifically putting vaccines into food for the purpose of making people sick. I think scientists are trying to put vaccines into food to help better human health, whether you believe it or not. Digestion related illnesses kill more people than I think it's probably the second deadliest disease or like cause of death around the world, is like diarrhea and waterborne types of bacteria. So it is a very significant problem. We in the United States are fairly, we don't really have exposure to that anymore because our water is very treated. Like it goes through a lot of different processes to remove the contaminants that are typically in water. But people in places like Asia and Africa, North Africa, they're at much higher risk because their food does not, their water systems are not as advanced. And many, many people still rely on drinking water straight from wells or from lakes and rivers. And so we don't notice those effects very much because we're like, when there are outbreaks, it's usually only like hundreds or thousands of people, and most people don't die. It's usually only like kids or elderly people that, or people with other underlying issues that are affected by these. But the types of vaccines that they're putting in are targeting specific diseases and illnesses that can be very dangerous for a person. People underestimate like a food bug. If you don't have adequate water accessibility or adequate food, it can kill you in like 3 days. It doesn't take very long if you are voiding your bowels consistently because you're no longer absorbing nutrients. You're losing a lot of energy because of the whole process that your body's going through. And then you're also at significant risk of dehydration. And that's why a lot of people who end up with those diseases or end up with those illnesses have to show up in the hospital so they can get IV fluids. And that's what electrolytes are for, to help rebuild the losses from your body as a result of those diseases. So this is a thing, but I think it's being conflated with like the shot vaccines and the idea that like, oh, they're putting heavy metals, they're putting poisons and stuff like that into the shots and whatnot. They are different and they do respond to your body differently based on how you consume it. And when you take things in orally, it's going to respond in your body differently than if you inject it into the muscle. So yeah, it is true, but I don't think there's as much of the like evil behind it as there is. Granted, I do know that there is a history of the government, of science, taking advantage of vulnerable people and testing on them. So again, I don't believe it, but I also wouldn't put it past them either.
So here we are. Is this for the betterment of the people, or is this for something darker? I think that's where we're pretty much in agreement with. I absolutely don't believe that every single scientist in the world is in a laboratory in Raccoon City somewhere building a T virus and an antivirus. I don't think that's, but I do believe there are a group of folks out there that do have negative intentions. You can't have the good without the bad. And if you believe that they crop dust, then wouldn't it be reasonable enough to believe that they could be doing some other stuff as well? I agree with you said. Don't get it twisted. I do believe that a lot of this is with the concern of the population. I just don't really trust the government too much. Like I say that all the time. I don't really have a lot of faith in them at all anyway. So I'm personally on the fence with it. It wouldn't surprise me either way. Uh let's say that this is actually just for them to they're looking out for our best interest. Let's go with that for a second. What are the actual benefits that will come with any of this? Right? Because the food already is expensive enough as it is, and you're talking about adding other elements to it, which to me would mean that you're going to raise the price on it more. Because, like, just going to the hospital right now is expensive. Going to the dentist right now is expensive. Pretty much doing anything involving food is expensive. But you want to add something that's supposed to help us, and then you're going to charge us extra to help us? That don't really sound too poetic to me. This is how I kind of look at it, bro. And I, go back a few weeks. Yeah, you can go back earlier in the year. Always go back to there's somebody over top of somebody that's giving somebody an assignment to do something. And then there's folks that stand in the gap to mask the true objectives behind what's going on. Those are the ones I call the politicians. They could be news anchors. They could be reporters. They could be MTV hosts. They could be sponsors. They could be men and women doing Nike commercials. But I ask y'all this question. What would be the benefits if this isn't some elaborate scheme to poison the entire earth?
I just don't see it. I think, me personally, I think the government, because you brought up the word politician, and when you talk about politics, I always look at that as straight up manipulation. I think that's what's been going on. It's 2020, the year 2020. We've been getting manipulated for the last 5 years and beyond that. Really, it's all a manipulation. It's a big head game when it come to putting that chemical in food. I think it's going back to that the COVID when the COVID hit. If anybody remember how that year went, they was really pushing the narrative of they wanted everybody to take the vaccine, just take it. And a lot of people didn't take it, and some people did take it. And then when they did take the vaccine and stuff like that, then it was another vaccine that came out. Then after you did that, then it was another one. Like how many shots you got to take? I mean, for y'all to get it right. And then After you even took that, people still passed away because there was people dropping off like flies in 2020. So people were still passing away. So that vaccine to me was never 100 because it came from the government. And like we talked about, it was to get rid of them numbers, take them numbers down, kill off some people. Population was getting way out of hand. And when I look at it from that lens, you can't really trust anything that they create. And and if you can't trust it, how could it be beneficial to you? You see what I'm saying? There's no benefits in that. Everybody got to eat. And food these days, just before you even add that chemical, whatever in those foods, it's it's expensive anyway. It's just as expensive to go to the grocery stores to eat out. And a lot of people eat out. So the groceries ain't it used to be a benefit with the groceries, but I don't really see it. And then you got to still cook it after you buy it. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't see the benefit in none of that. You know what I'm saying? This only thing I can say is if this is really true and they really doing this, I guess it's good to know the information. That's about it. You know what I'm saying? But they don't never put nothing out for the people that's gonna help them get further. It's always something that's put them behind the eight ball. So we gotta adjust to whatever changes they make. That's all I've been accustomed to. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, man, we gotta really pay attention to the changes that they making because it's gonna help us navigate our next move and what we have to do. But yeah, I think all politics is just, it's just manipulation to get you to do what they really wanted you to do because going back to that shot, ain't no everybody wasn't on board of taking that shot. I know I wasn't because it was just a scary time, and especially when I saw somebody pass away after they took the shot, I was like, nah, this I don't you don't know what they put in that person's body. And like you said up top, Sid, you don't know how your body gonna react to what they got. You don't know that. So it's a chance that you take, but once you take it, hey, you got to deal with whatever come after that. And it was a lot of deaths in 2020.
I want to touch on a couple things. One, just to kind of answer the question that you were bringing up. Sometimes, or part of the reason why they did have many different vaccines for COVID is COVID mutated incredibly fast. There were, I think, 4 strains within the first 2 years. And what they mean by a strain is it means it adapts to beat at, like it doesn't, the other vaccine doesn't work on it anymore because it's been able to fight it, like it doesn't kill it anymore. And so they needed to make these vaccines because it was replicating and mutating so rapidly that some of the vaccines weren't working anymore. So that's probably also why some people got the vaccine but died anyways, because they were probably infected with a different strain. And also, you do have to sometimes get multiple shots of something because of how it like acts in your body. You have to kind of start the immune response so your body learns how to attack those that specific illness, and then you get it again, so it kind of solidifies it in your system. I forgot exactly the nitpick science around it, but I know for a lot of them, that's why like kids sometimes have to get double doses of certain things because their bodies have to learn over time how to react to it, but they have to use like most vaccines use, basically they take the shell of the cellular organism that causes that disorder or disease, and they kill it so it's dead and it can't replicate, but it still is identifiable to the body. And that way, when it's in the system, the body's like, oh, that's not something we want in here. And so they learn, like, it's basically in the same way that people, like, you can identify who your neighbors are and who some of your neighbors aren't. So if you have some strange person walking around your neighborhood, you're going to be like, them, who's that, why are you here? So it's kind of that body's way of doing that, where they're like, okay, this is not a recognizable thing, we need to attack it. That's actually the problem. That's why people have autoimmune problems, because their body basically overreacts to things that are foreign. So that's why sometimes you have to have a bunch of different vaccinations over time. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, they said it in the original video that we're watching, is a very real concern of vaccines, and is exactly what was behind the reason for all the COVID vaccines. Things will replicate very quickly sometimes, and if you don't give a high enough dose, it basically gives that bacteria or whatever enough time to learn how to resist that vaccine. And so if you don't get enough of an inoculation, it can actually make your body resistant, or it can make the pathogen resistant to any future vaccines. And so it's almost like injuring somebody, but not actually killing them. And so they're going to come back stronger because they're like, no, I'm going to take you out now. And so it's that same type of mentality where sometimes if you don't get the viruses the first time, the ones that are able to grow back are going to be stronger. Like that's the whole thing with evolution, is like animals are going to, the strongest survive. And if you're being killed off by a vaccine and there's some that survive, they're less likely to be killed by that vaccine. And so they're just going to create more of them that are able to withstand those vaccines. And we do actually have that problem right now, where there are resistant strains that are not able to be killed by anything. I'm blanking on the name. There's a couple that we have right now that, like, if you get it, the chances of you dying are like 99%. Most people cannot survive because not even antibiotics can kill them. And it's, let me see what it's, that is what he brought up is a real concern, where if you're feeding people stuff that have, staph infection. Staph infection is the one that pretty much everyone has probably heard of. Certain types of staph infections, if you have a certain type, are going to kill you if you don't catch it early, because there's no other way to kill it. There's no vaccines for it. There's no antibiotics for it. So if you're giving people foods that have these vaccines in them, you could accidentally train the bacterias or the biotics to get past it and become stronger, and our future vaccines won't work on them. So with that congressman or whoever, I don't know what he was, but what he was saying was definitely a valid concern. And it's also why you don't want to just give people vaccines willy-nilly, because it could make it easier for them to actually contract a stronger infection in the future. And then as you said, Final Boss, as well, some people have underlying conditions that make them more vulnerable to the type of reactions that you get when getting a vaccine, because vaccines can trigger a very low key, mild version of whatever illness that thing causes. That's why, like, if you get shots, sometimes you can feel like you have a really mild flu, because your body is still having a reaction. It's just not a full-blown one. But if people have underlying conditions, heart conditions, lung conditions, autoimmune, they can have much more severe reactions to being exposed to those vaccines. So it is worth being very cautious with. And as nice as it is to think about, oh yeah, we'll be able to like wipe out these diseases or whatever, it's still very dangerous, because again, it doesn't affect people across the board. You don't know how you're going to react to certain diseases, and also the amount that you consume. Like, what if you eat a whole salad that has all of this stuff in it, and like you have a whole bunch of different fruits with a bunch of different vaccines in it? That could be very dangerous, like that cocktail inside your body. So it is something that we should be very cautious about if we plan to introduce something like that. And we need labeling too.
And depending on who you are, when you take that shot, you opening yourself up for more diseases as well. You know what I'm saying? That once you take that vaccine, man, your body is open to catch all types of work. So you might be dealing with a lot of shit depending on how your body's set up. You know what I'm saying? That you'll catch a cold faster. That cold will probably do way more damage on your body than the average person, depending on what they put in your ass. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta be cautious of that too. And you don't know how your history is, your health history. You got a family. You don't know what you know, high blood pressure, all that. Like, yeah, you gotta know your history, man, your health history before you take that.
One issue I always had with the vaccine and the whole COVID situation was when you started out, you said I didn't have to take it. Like, this is optional. If you don't want it, you good. And then as time progressed, you basically threatened everybody. You said you're gonna lose your job. Matter of fact, first it was we're gonna pay you to take it. We'll pay you to take it, and then it went from we're gonna pay you to take it to if you don't take it, then I guess you're just gonna be out of luck. You're gonna have to find you somewhere that's gonna be okay with you being without that card. If you don't have them cards, you get no access. And so you took away my right to decide whether or not this was good for me, because I had already been working for a solid 5 years before this hit. I was already a legit permanent worker. And then you introduce this and tell me now, in order for you to keep a job that you had already had, you're going to have to shoot some foreign crap in your body in order for you to keep on making a living. I always had a big issue with that, because at the time I was ready to just quit the job. I was just going to walk away from it and leave it alone. But you understand where we are. You got bills, you got responsibilities. You can't afford to not work. So it's like, I gotta go ahead and do it. There's a few people in my household that didn't take it, and they ironically still thrived and found and flourished in work. And I'm upset that I even took it, because even after I took the vaccine, I still ended up catching COVID twice. So it was like, what was the point? You know what's interesting about the whole discussion, though? You can find a lot of positives within this. And, I always appreciate Sydney's approach, because you coming from a scientific perspective, you want to be healthy, and you want to live as long as you possibly can. You want your loved ones to have a viable upbringing. But then you listen to Final Boss at the bottom, and he makes a point too. Like, just because you sat here in a laboratory and you started playing hocus pocus with a bunch of different materials, that does not necessarily mean that I'm not going to turn into a chicken, or I'm going to end up a transformer of some, like, you playing around with people's life. Two things, and I'm going to yield the mic, that I do concede to. Whether or not you believe COVID was brought here on purpose or not, when it came, they were in such a rush to help people that they started dispersing this medicine as fast as possible, and you didn't really have the time to figure out, should we do this, or it was like people are dying, we gotta, the pressure is on us, to get this out here. So I look at that and I'm like, well, given the circumstances, I can understand that. But then it's like, well, even still, it was, I don't know. I always felt real iffy about certain medicines, especially with this. Thinking about, have I ever gotten sick? I never got like the full symptoms of COVID, but I got little stuff here and there. So I don't know. I'm still, my conspiracy side is still, I still don't really trust it, but especially when you are constantly reminded that it's gone, but then it's mutating. Sydney, you said it's mutated a few times. I don't know how many times I've heard it's changed and evolved, which is another concern. Like, is it going to be a continual thing where it just keeps on mutating over and over and over again? Right? So I don't know. I take it with a grain of salt. These videos specifically, you can believe it, or you could just be more aware of it. And I brought it up too because there was a video that came up where they were trying to warn anyone who had kids, if you're going out trick-or-treating, be careful with the candy, because they were putting fentanyl in the candy. I made a post on Threads, and the people said, man, they're not doing that. You need to stop listening to that stuff. You need to stop watching it. But whether or not it is real or is not, that wasn't the point. The point was, it's a conversation that is being had, and it wasn't just me cosplaying as a Senate or a sergeant. It was literally men and women having this discussion about it, and they warned you about it. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna share this with the people. Maybe it might help you, maybe it won't. I yield the mic.
Yeah, all I know from what you just touched on, bro, is that we can't continue on being guinea pigs. I feel like that was a guinea pig mission. Um, when it first hit and when you first heard about it, you know, uh, you could just tell everybody was shook. It wasn't nobody really prepared for how this was going to hit us. Um, it was what they said, it used to be called the Spanish flu. So it was like 100 years ago, 1920, and people was wearing masks 100 years ago, and coughing and all that. But since then, everybody had a little mucus, a cold here and there. But once, like, I going back to that shot, once they give you that shot, man, because you don't know what they then created, that potion. That's it. You know, that's how I looked at it. I looked at it like that. Like, I didn't. Everything felt rushed. I didn't trust none of it. I I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it, man. It was so much going on at that time. I mean, I knew to stay away from people. They spoke on the social distancing and all that, but all them vaccines was just too much, man. I couldn't really get down with that. So once they give you that shot, though, it's nothing you really can do. You can't take it back. Um, I think we covered it before with some players. I think what LeBron's son had some heart problems or something like that. They said it was due to taking those vaccines. So there was a lot of people that suffered later on, probably not the year 2020, but maybe a year or two after that, they were having complications and stuff. So when I'm looking at all of that, and I'm looking at what the government is trying to sell you and tell you, like you said, they asked you first, but then it got to a point after about 5 months. No, we making you do it. You gonna do it, and that's how I feel like everybody got to take it. And then it's like if you don't take it, say for instance you don't take it, then I was hearing you automatically guided. You know what I'm saying? You affected because you didn't take the shot. That's not true. You see what I'm saying? Going back to what they keep telling you is it be lies. The politics is that stuff don't make no sense. Because if that was the case, you know what I'm saying, a lot of people would be dead that didn't take that didn't take that daggone shot, man. And that did not happen. And we lost a lot of numbers, but the theory of it is false. You can die taking it, you can, you know what I'm saying, people can die not. So that shot really didn't mean too much to me, but I just, I'm just disagree with what they put out there these days. And far as these strains that's coming, they tell you again. I heard something earlier this year. It's been 5 years removed. I heard something earlier this year. They calling it something else. You see what I'm saying? Like we got different names for hurricanes. Like this is a new strain. Like what this gonna do that the other one didn't? Oh, it's real strong. They hype it all up. Oh, this one gonna take everybody out. Okay. You know, you told me the other one was potent too. You said that if I don't get this shot, you see what I'm saying? So no, I don't go with that politics stuff. You gotta really, do your own research and kind of follow how stuff was moving. Because in that time, yeah, like I said, it wasn't nobody prepared, and I felt like they pushed that shot, that agenda on to people, man, and they messed their lives up, man. And if this was just to get rid of the population, man, they gotta come better than that.
This is more of a joke, but I mean, maybe they really are trying to control the population because I've heard they're already starting to look at testing nukes again. Like they're like, oh man, those illnesses aren't going fast enough. We need to do something stronger than that. But that brings up my point, or to go along with this, the government. I'll backtrack a little bit. I personally think that the scientists have the best will at heart. Like, I don't think it's the scientists that are trying to do this to people. I genuinely believe doctors and like people that went into it to make people's lives better. I genuinely think that they want. I think it's the rich people and the politicians that are using that to do whatever they're trying to do. And there's a history of this happening since like the 1940s. We have had people, countless. I could not even name on, like, I couldn't even give you a count of how often this happens, but they would test people they would inject people with diseases. They would do surgeries on them without consent. They would tell them that they were doing one thing, but they did another thing on them. They would like purposely infect them to see how it would progress in their body. They would do, you name it, they did it. They forced sterilizations, causing people to be sick, doing surgeries on them, removing body parts. anything and everything. They would test people, particularly people within the disadvantaged communities. It was very, very prevalent, especially with the Black community in the United States, but this has been done across the board in many other countries. And they have taken advantage of people. And that's actually where the necessity for consent came from. Because now you are, because of all the stuff they've done, you are required to tell somebody, this is what we're doing. This is what's in this procedure and what is being used. This is what I'm doing to you. This is what you can expect from it. Because we have this history where they were just doing whatever they wanted to because they wanted to test and see what would happen. And they knew that if you protested, that it would make everyone else upset. So they just didn't tell you. They also would do it with prison inmates for a long time, like even up to the 1950s. They were testing on people. There's examples even from like the 80s and 90s. So this is not something that was like, oh, some bygone era. This has been happening for a long time. And it does bring up that concern of these groups of individuals that control everything. I mean, we're watching the collapse of our entire country right now under the weight of this small group of white supremacists. And they have infinite access to everything. They have control of our water systems. They have control of our food systems. They have control over the biggest commodity disseminators like Amazon and like all of the internet people and whatnot, like all those companies. We know who they are. They have access to all of these people, all of the funds. And if they wanted to, they could return to this type of era where we are the guinea pigs. We are the test subjects. They can do whatever they want to us to see what happens for their benefit. And I don't think in like for the vaccines and the food, I don't think it's being done at this point with ill will, but I could almost guarantee there is ill-willed experimentation being done that we don't know about yet. And not to mention, even if it's not for the purpose of experimentation, we already know that there's extensive damage done to our environmental systems, our water systems, our air that are being hidden, that are not being talked about. I mean, I think we did this probably one of my first Wednesday podcasts, where we talked about in Moss Landing, there was an electrical facility that caught on fire and it was releasing chemicals. And the environmental scientists were basically being told not to say anything, even though they're testing at extremely high levels for very dangerous metals and other forms of chemicals. And so I'm not like, for me, I've gotten vaccines. My kids have gotten vaccines. I'm a little bit more hesitant to say like all vaccines are bad. They're trying to manipulate the vaccines and poison us or do like, there's so many different conspiracy theories with vaccines. Like I genuinely think that they're important because one, if you are not in a high risk group, they are very effective at either preventing illness or at least reducing the impact of those diseases. But also herd immunity is incredibly important, because if there's even a small segment of the population that still does not get vaccinated, it increases the risk of it being able to mutate beyond what the vaccines can do. And we're already starting to see that. There's a lot of diseases that we've eradicated, such as cholera, such as dysentery. There's a couple others that I'm not remembering right now. But they were extremely damaging in the 1800s, 1900s, and before. But they're now coming back because people have pulled back on getting vaccines. And so there is tested benefits to getting these vaccines. But I think the thing is the government needs to be completely transparent. And I don't believe that they are. There are many, many circumstances where I do believe they're hiding things from us, that they are pretending to help us while not. And while, again, I don't think it's within the area of vaccines, I do believe it in the area of pharmaceuticals and other forms of chemicals like pesticides and farm-based like sprays and whatnot, like things that we apply to ourselves, with medications and stuff like that. this whole overuse of pharmaceuticals is a huge problem, and also how they downplay the effects of certain pharmaceuticals. And then we have all of these like fancy pharmaceutical companies that make designer drugs for people that are not FDA approved, and they put it out there as if they're actually beneficial. I think those are really the big problems that we should be focusing on, because those are promoted in making it seem like they're medications, but they aren't. And so I would be comfortable trusting the non-commercialized medical industries, the doctors and pharmacists that actually do the research for the benefit of people. But it's the big companies, the big pharmaceutical companies, the government agencies that I don't trust, because they stand to gain off of our illnesses rather than our health. And so if you gain because we're sick, I don't trust you. But if you want to make the world a better place and you're doing this because you see a problem and you're trying to fix it, I'm okay with you. Like the foundations and the nonprofits that are working to find solutions for things, I would trust them. But again, if you're making money off of people and wanting us to be sick because it makes you more money, those are the people I don't trust.
Which makes sense. That's a hard pill to swallow, considering I don't know too many of these folks. Maybe I need to do a little more digging myself. It's messed up that it's like this, because these people, like, they got your loved ones in the palm of their hands, essentially. If your cousin or somebody gets sick, you take them to the hospital. You're expecting them to take care of them. You're expecting them to give them everything that they need to fight off whatever illnesses, whatever ailments they might have on their person. And we're so greedy, man. We're so greedy. If I hadn't seen and covered all of the stories that I've covered over the last 2 years alone, I probably wouldn't be so, I can't even think of the word. There's a word for it. I just see things so bleak. I got hope, but it's like, I got a video right now that people are, they just come, it's like, woman scammed the people out of $66 million in food stamps. She was pocketing the money, telling people that there was no money. The whole time she was taking it, her and like 5 other people. You hear stories like that, it's like, and it's not just one time, it's like it's a consistent thing. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, somebody is scamming somebody's stealing from someone. It's like, damn, how do you really put any type of faith in human beings after you just continuously see it, even on a smaller scale, working at a hospital, working at a Home Depot, working at a school? You see how people have their cliques. You see how folks abuse their power and their positions, but there is still good out there. And that's something that needs to be highlighted a little more, so that's something that I'm gonna take with consideration moving forward as well, because I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not trying to say, oh, the monsters under your bed are the doctors and the police officers wearing the badges, because everybody is not a monster. It's just something that we can't pretend isn't in our face. It's happening. It's right there. You can't ignore it. As much as you want to act like everything in life is cool and calm, it's not. And that's probably one of the main reasons why I tend not to bring up a lot of the happy stuff, but I do need to bring up some more happy stuff. Like them posts I do in the community tabs with the kids being 12 years old, having degrees and we need more of that. As far as this right here, again, I don't think that they're all trying to poison us. I still just don't trust them either. But it's whose fault is it? Whose fault is it that I'm the way I am? You know, everybody got their own opinion and their own points of views about this stuff. I'm here because of what I saw. I wasn't born this way. I didn't wake up, go to the 6th grade, the 8th grade, the 10th grade, thinking about poisoning the food and lesbianism. I wasn't thinking about any of that stuff. It was introduced to me. So those my final thoughts on the whole thing, man. Any final words from anybody about this or anything you want to address? Shout outs to Chef. Superb feedback, brother, as always. Salutes to the people in the building who pulled up for the stream tonight. Oh, matter of fact, I want to say we just hit, if I'm not mistaken, 2,800 subscribers. Shout out to the people, man. I appreciate the love and the support. Just wanted to acknowledge that. I'm gonna have to try to do something special for that, man.
I do have a tiny little poem. I'm just trying to find it.
That's cool. That's cool. You want to add anything before she reads her spot?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna play that number that you just said with the subscribers. I think that might be a blessing, you know. So I'm gonna see what that do. But other than that, I'm gonna just say the whole discussion here tonight was decent and it's eye opening, and I just think everybody in cahoots because that's what it sounds like. It's a big ass conspiracy thing with the vaccine, you know. Um, do the government got your life in the palm of their hands? You damn skippy, they do. They can put you in the jail. They can decide whether they're gonna keep you alive or not. You know, you if you don't follow by their rules with the conspiracy and all of that, and yeah, they'll get rid of you. They'll sweep you under the rug. So yeah, be mindful. That's all I can say. Be mindful. You know, don't fall for the tricks and keep your ears open. You got it, Miss Sydney.
All right. Just my final thoughts. I know a lot of people have their thoughts about vaccines, but I do encourage people to consider getting them, especially if they have children, because children are especially at risk of some of the diseases that they can prevent. And some of them, once you get them, you can't reverse it, such as polio. I know there's a lot of stuff out there about them and there's a stigma about them, but I don't know. It's very hard to talk to people about it because I know there is that that hatred towards them and that mistrust. But just from my own research, just from my own experience, my own understanding, talking to other doctors, I hope that people can develop a trust for them again, because in many ways they have saved us as a society. There are a lot of diseases we've wiped out that have killed millions of people over time, and even in other countries they have killed millions of people. So they are worth it. It is worth talking to your doctor, though, just to make sure that you don't have other conditions that can make it worse. but don't completely write them off just because of what's happening in the government and whatnot. Because as we said, there's good and bad to everything. Not everything is evil for you. So do what's best for you, but do consider the ability of it to protect you. So I just have a short little poem that I wrote about these big individuals that like to control us and do things to us without letting us know, and are basically there to hurt us for their personal gain. So this is called Noxious. Those who poison rivers won't save tears for you. Those who subjugate, separate, extricate humanity from the living deny you. Like vultures in a flood, they will not ever destroy you. They will watch. Start raising your voice and preach peace.
That was nice.
Indeed, indeed. This was a good one. I'm about to chop this one up. I gotta chop this one up, and I got a stream that we did earlier. I gotta chop up before I call it a night. But thank you to both for pulling up. Shout outs to everybody in the building. We're gonna be spinning the block. It's about to be a interesting week. It's about to be an interesting week. I'm already clipped up. What are we doing something tomorrow? What's up, man? Are we doing something tomorrow?
Hey, we can do that. We can run it back.
We'll chop it up in a bit. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all night though. If you need me, you know where I'm at. Road to 3K. We working. I'm on that helmet all year. I said I was going to be, and I'm a man of my word. Oh, matter of fact, I almost forgot about something. Let me see. Today is Sydney's 1 year anniversary.
Hey. Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Can you say happy anniversary?
Hi.
She tried.
Y'all have a blessed night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
See you guys tomorrow.
All right.
Take it easy.
All right, now.
Y'all sleep well. And we out.
Hi.
Saturday, the main event. I had a storm. Right back.